Hello and welcome to the Scarfey Spurs Talk podcast. I'm your host today, Joesph. Harry currently studying, so he hasn't been able to come on for this podcast. But I've got a great set of guests here with me to break down. Luckily I have the luxury of talking about one of the worst games this season, losing again at Anfield, as we usually do. But this time on the end of a 5-1 rumping. So let me introduce to you our guests. First of all, we got Harry. It's his debut on the podcast. How are you doing, Harry? How are you feeling after yesterday? And how are you doing in general?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, mate. Well, I'm just quite tired after yesterday, to be honest. Got back quite late, so yeah, to be honest, I'm well tired after that. But yeah, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you, mate. Were you at the game?
Yeah.
Oh fucking hell! Sorry, mate. That's a shame. But no, glad to hear you're doing well. Next, we've got Joey. How you doing, Joey?
Good, thank you, Joesph. Weather's been lovely in London today, so we should be having some good weather for the rest of the week. So that's a bit of a plus side. Something about the result yesterday. I think we all knew it was kind of. We wouldn't think it was going to be that bad, but we didn't think we were going to win the game. So I suppose it's a bit of a. But yeah, we're feeling all good and great to be on the show again with all the nice guests that we got here today. So yeah, all good.
Yeah, great to have you again, Joey. It's always great to have you on the podcast. And no, you're right. I don't think any of us were really going into it with high hopes, but I guess the result is still a really, really disappointing one. And also we've got Sam here on the podcast. How you doing, Sam?
Yeah, well, I'm as well as I can be based on how dire the last 18 months have been, really, and just capped off by a pretty horrific game last night. As I said to you guys in the in the green room, I decided sort of to only watch the first half and catch the rest reluctantly on playback, and yeah, it looked like it was the right choice, to be honest. And yeah, obviously my debut on the channel, so big up to Harry for having me on, and I'm ready to get into it with you guys.
Yeah, thank you for joining us again, and everyone watching, thank you all for joining us. If you'd like to, please like, subscribe to the channel. Also, if you're catching this on any other platforms, Spotify, please do again come to the YouTube channel. Please hit subscribe, follow us on Twitter, and all our lovely guests. Please do follow them because they're taking their time to talk about what was a really, really disappointing game yesterday. I think it's fair to say. I don't think any of us usually have high hopes for a game at Liverpool at Anfield, especially in the circumstances we were coming into, with that being Liverpool's game to win the league. But let's just start from the start of the day. Let's talk about the lineup that Spurs went with. I think we all have a bit of comments on that because it was maybe a strange lineup to some, maybe not to others. But I'll go through it quickly. We had Vicario in net. Udogie was a left back with Davis and Danzo at the back, and Archie. It was Jed Spence at right back, wasn't it? And then we had Archie Gray, Bergvall, and Maddison in midfield with Tel Solanke up front. It was Brennan Johnson, wasn't it, on the right wing as well? So first of all, Harry, how are you feeling about the lineup? What were you thinking about that? And how are you feeling going into the game? Obviously going up to Liverpool, seeing that lineup on your phone, how are you feeling about it when you saw it?
In some ways, I think it's quite good because it shows that we're resting players for Thursday, which is obviously a much bigger game because realistically in the league, we're not really playing for anything now. Cause we're not going down. We're definitely not getting Europe, but probably the biggest game so far of the season on Thursday. So if we can get over the line on Thursday and get a good home win, then I'm confident we can go through. But if we do lose on Thursday, then resting the players yesterday is kind of a bit pointless. So yeah, I if I'm honest, I would rather have rested the players. But yeah.
No, that's fair enough. Like I kind of was in the same boat as you going into the game. I think I was kind of sitting there going, yeah, you know what, it's a smart idea to rest some of the players, make sure they're all ready for Thursday because that's really our biggest game of the season coming up. So no, definitely I get that. But I mean, was there a part of you that was kind of thinking when you saw that lineup and saw that there was a lot of rotation, you were kind of thinking, I've spent a lot of money to come up here to come see this, and I've got maybe a weaker side than maybe you wanted to see, go in there to Anfield.
Yeah, that is true as well, to be fair, because it's like, obviously, put our weaker side, we're seeing them score more goals, so that ain't great. If I'm honest, I was surprised that Bergvall was playing, because I would have thought if out of all the players that would have been rested, I would have thought he would have been one of them, because he's really racked up some of the most minutes in recent weeks out of most players, so yeah, I was surprised that he played. But yeah, your doggy as well. Another one, him and Spence. I would have probably played Porro personally because I'd rather them two play on Thursday, but it ain't me that makes the team, so that is.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of Tottenham fans would have the opinion that you do as good a job as Ange right now. But yeah, let's go on to you, Joey. How were you feeling about that lineup when you saw it? Again, a lot of rotation in there, maybe as expected for some people, but what were you thinking when you first saw it?
To be honest with you, Joe, I expected us to rotate. I did. I didn't think we'd fully rotate that much, though, in regards to playing both like Davis at centre half and Danso. I thought we'd have Danso and maybe Romero play. Like, I can understand we're all still a bit tentative about Mickey, but I still would have expected Romero to still play. But nonetheless, Ange went for what he went for with the back four. Again, I agree with Harry. I would have expected us to play Porro and maybe would have put Jed left back and would have been a bit more, again, tentative with Udogie because he's just literally come back over the last few weeks as well. But overall, in regards to like the midfield, Bergvall was another one I expected to be ready before Thursday. But other than that, the front three I kind of expected. So yeah, that's my viewpoint on the lineup. But yeah, I did expect a bit of a rotation for sure.
Yeah, definitely. I think we all kind of thought there was going to be some kind of rotation. I mean, it seems clear now that Tottenham have literally given up with the league. Now that there's no chance of any kind of relegation, we're not going to achieve anything in the league going forward. So, I can understand that. But sometimes I do kind of sit there and think, well, you want to try and bring some momentum into that European game. And you've kind of shot yourself in the foot from the word go when you're rotating, very, very, highly with, again, no senior, real senior centre backs in terms of Van der Ven and Romero, our first team centre backs there. You have Davis and Danso, who, again, haven't played much football over the last couple of weeks. So it did seem risky. Sam, I want to get you in here. I know you mentioned before the show, and here David's mentioned a bit about how it feels like Gray was kind of thrown under the bus, exactly the point you were making before. What were your opinions on that and the lineup in general, and how do you feel, Ange, handled that lineup going into the game?
Yeah, I mean, David's comment is actually against what I'm saying, because he's saying basically we were all asking for Gray to play in midfield, and that's valid, right? But as I said to you in the green room, there's been many a game where he could have thrown Archie Gray into the mix in midfield. I think we've seen him play once or twice in midfield for like 10 minutes up until this point. And I've seen a lot of people on social media saying basically, what has happened to Gray? Like, why isn't he getting any minutes, like anywhere? And to throw him into the Anfield crowd, it's not that I'm against him playing in midfield. It's just to throw him in that kind of atmosphere where it's flares galore. They're anticipating their first in-person league title in 20 odd years. It just, for me, stank of poor man management. Something that I personally have complained about Ange over his tenure at Spurs, especially. I think to play a midfield of Gray and Bergvall. Like, I think a lot of us would agree Bergvall's probably been our player of the second half of the season. But again, he's got very limited experience in these kind of environments. And to throw both of those inexperienced players against arguably the first or second best midfield trio in the league, again, under that kind of pressure at Anfield where there's so much expectation, it just, to me, I feel bad for Gray because, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it, but I thought he had quite a poor game from what I saw. He was getting overrun. He was at fault for the second goal. And I just think that he looked very out of sorts, a little bit like Bergvall did in the Galatasaray game. I agree with Joey, to be honest, or Harry, I can't remember who said it. I would have probably played Porro in that game because I feel like Destiny, we've sort of had to learn the lesson of throwing him back in, playing so many minutes after sustained injuries. I think that Porro's shown that he has although he's played a crazy number of minutes, he's got the physicality to basically do it. And I would have probably played Spence on the left because I can see that he's probably going to start Destiny again in the cup for me. So other than that, I mean, I probably expected the rest of the team to play pretty much how it was.
Yeah, no, I completely get what you're saying, and I think it wasn't something I really considered, kind of coming into this conversation we were going to have. But like, you're right, it does feel like it wasn't the right, might have not been the best game for Archie Gray, because again, there's plenty of opportunities he could have played. I think, like David has said, we were all streaming for Archie Gray to play, but was this the right game for him to come into? A game which I think 99% of people would put Liverpool down to absolutely smash us, which is exactly what ended up happening. It just wasn't, isn't going to build up his confidence, isn't going to get him ready for this, hopefully midfield role that he's going to kind of make his at Tottenham. Just doesn't feel like it was the right choice. But let's get into the game. It started on quite a nice high. I mean, Liverpool had a couple of chances in the opening exchanges, but then Tottenham get the first goal, a cross in from Maddison, Solanke with a nice header into the corner of the net. Harry, how was that? At the game, how was that feeling when we got that goal and went 1-0 up against Liverpool?
It was good, but you could tell everyone sort of had that feeling of we're not holding this. Like, it's like we needed to at least get another one if we wanted to keep staying that game. But good, very good header, good ball in. But yeah, I just wish we'd done better to hold on. Because you could tell the Liverpool fans, like, they knew they was coming back into that game. And there was a lot of Liverpool fans in that Spurs away end, and you could tell because a lot of them were wearing red.
I've seen a couple of things on social media about the amount of Liverpool fans that were in that away end, and I guess obviously it is a shame that happened. I can understand, obviously it's their biggest, probably the biggest game for a lot of them in their lives. Finally winning that title and seeing the Liverpool fans or the Liverpool team during that moment, but it's a shame that can happen. You want the fans to be properly, you want it to be fully Tottenham in one corner and the rest be Liverpool in the other to create an atmosphere, but. It is what it is. Unfortunately, reselling tickets is always going to be a part of it. But no, I mean, I completely agree with you. Exactly what you said in terms of when we scored that goal. Because I was with my mate and I saw it pop up on my phone that Dom Solanke had scored. And I was like, oh, 1-0 up. And he was like, oh, you 1-0 up. That's pretty, that's pretty good. And I was like, it doesn't mean anything, mate. We've got a long way left of this game. We know what Tottenham will do. And before I even walked back to my house, it was 2-1. So, it is what it is. But, Joey, how were you feeling about that goal? Again, a great cross from Maddison and a good header from Solanke. It is a goal that we do feel like Solanke might have needed. Obviously, he did score that penalty in Europe, but he hasn't really had too many goals since the turn of the year. It's quite a good goal for him, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. It was very well taken. Again, it's something that I think we haven't utilised in regards to when we're playing with him up front. We don't really get the ball into the box as much as we should do, I think, with him playing up top. And I think that's something we need to be doing a lot more to get the best out of him, if that makes sense. Because we all talk about how good he is at pressing and, his work rate for the team. But I don't feel like we play enough to suit his game. And obviously doing what he was doing at Bournemouth, and he was able to be the fox in the box and get a lot of chances and stuff like that. So I feel like that was kind of a breath of fresh air seeing that yesterday. But obviously, as I think we all knew, and as Harry said as well, it's like we kind of knew, even though we scored first, it was a bit like, oh no, we don't think we're going to hold on to this. It's going to change quite quickly in that Anfield crowd. So yeah, that was my viewpoint on it. It was refreshing to see that we actually crossed the ball into the box for Solanke for once. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're right. We've never really utilised the strengths of what Dominic Solanke is. It feels like he's kind of come to Tottenham from Bournemouth and he's been forced into this role. And you know what? He has done it very well. Works tirelessly, always, gives a really solid effort. But in terms of his abilities and what he can bring to a team in terms of his finishing, his head, his aerial ability, his hold-up play, we don't see too much of that. And it was good to see him get on the end of that cross. We'll come to you, Sam, finally on that goal. I mean, it's the only positive we're really going to talk about in this game. So like to get your opinion on it. What were you thinking of the goal itself?
Yeah, look, I mean, he took it really well. He actually put the pressure on Konate in the first place to win the corner. And I think that I was at the Liverpool home game in the Cup. And I thought he actually bullied Konate a lot in that game, even Van Dijk to an extent. And in those opening, sort of 10 minutes of this game, I actually thought he was sort of coming out nearly on top. And that's a big ask, especially away at Anfield. And then we put in, actually probably Maddison's first good corner of the season. And And that's what happens. You put it on a plate. He got past. I mean, to be honest, their defending was poor in that. They had the wrong players marking probably our most dangerous threat in the box from those kind of scenarios. But as you said, we haven't really seen that so far this season. I mean, Solanke was, as far as we've been told, he was Ange's top target for the summer. He was the one that Ange wanted. And yet we don't see any styles or patterns of play that basically bring out the best qualities of him. I've seen a lot of people saying that, he's Spurs fans hype him up into being the Kane replacement, which I don't think is true. I think that a lot of us just see how hard he works. And in a team where we often criticize the players for downing tools, seeing Solanke, even with limited service, work his nuts off, I think is something that Spurs fans can get behind. And probably a lot of fans in general just like players to actually work hard. But that header was perfect. And for maybe a split second, I was like, oh God, we couldn't spoil the party. And then 4 minutes later, we concede again. But, I saw part of Ange's press conference, and he kind of said, we did really well after we scored, and we held on well, and then we conceded after 4 minutes. So I'm a bit like, I don't know what this guy was seeing, but at least the Spurs fans got something to cheer about.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Ange seems to say that after every single game, and it just all seems like bullshit, doesn't it? Like, we listen to him every single game, come out afterwards and say, oh, we played well, oh, we did this well, we did this good. No, we didn't. We lost the game. And that's been too many times. Was that the 19th defeat of the season, just in the Premier League alone? It's absolutely, it's just terrible, absolutely appalling. And but yeah, we'll keep going through the game very quickly. Like you said, Liverpool get back on level terms. Luis Diaz putting the ball in the net. There was obviously a hint of offside at first. The goal wasn't given, but VAR looked at it and it was onside, and it was a pretty simple tap in for Luis Diaz. Harry, again, probably down the end of the Tottenham end. I'm sure you had a good view of that. Did you know it was offside straight away, or did you think it was offside straight away, or were you thinking no, that's going to be given?
Yeah, I thought it was offside. I looked straight at the linesman when that went in. I saw him holding the flag. I was getting all giddy, thinking it was going to get disallowed, and then all of a sudden they said there's a VAR check. And I'm thinking, oh, here we go. And then yeah, they gave the goal. But yeah, even though all the people around me they was like, nah, it's definitely offside. And then, well, obviously not. But yeah, I watched it back, and then yeah, he is onside, to be fair, but it is quite tight.
Yeah, it was a close one, but again, it just shows how easily opened up we are. I mean, Joey, do you have any, or Sam, do you have any comments just on the defending in that with that first goal at all?
We was sitting so deep. We were so deep. It was like we wanted them to come on to us, in my opinion. And I feel like, obviously, on initial viewing, it did look offside. But obviously, when you watch it back on the replay, it's like, yeah, he wasn't well onside, but I just think we were sitting back so deep in our own box. It was like it was inevitable. It's like we were just waiting for it to happen. So, yeah, that's just my viewpoint on it. At the end of the day, I don't know what Sam's gonna say, but yeah, that's just my viewpoint.
Yeah, Sam, do you have anything to add on that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with we were sitting deep, and I think that we saw in the second leg of the semi-final that against Liverpool at Anfield, that just did not work, and we got turned over that day pretty easily. I feel like we've touched on kind of all the points about the goal, but the only thing I would say is that when that got given as not offside, I just felt like this is not going to be our day. The luck straight away was not with us, and we've seen that goal conceded so many times, and we've had the luck. The line is they're in a line well, but Danso unfortunately is looking along the line, and that's what catches us out. So we've been fortunate in the past to not have that conceded, but it's been on the cards pretty much all season, and most teams do that to us.
No, you're right, Sam. Like, it's the hope that kills you. After that first goal, you're feeling like maybe there's something different's going to happen. We seem to always go to Anfield and struggle, especially in recent years. I think back to with that Wanyama goal where he scored an absolute screamer. That's the last time we had a good day at Anfield. Since then, it's just been miserable. And to be fair, usually it's miserable at home as well with Liverpool, but we've had some weird games with them. But no, it's the hope that kills you, because then Liverpool very quickly make it 2-1, turn the game around, turn it on its head, and it's a great strike from McAllister, edge of the box, high into the roof of the net. Vicario not really having a chance with it. Harry, I bet when you saw that one, I'm sure Anfield went crazy, and you were just kind of head in hands moment, thinking, "Oh, here we go."
Yeah. That cheer, the what's the word? The volume of that cheer there when that goal went in, wow, it was proper loud. But it's like with a goal like that, you can't. There's not really much I can complain about. To be fair, there's not much. Vicario couldn't really do anything about that. The defender, closed him down, but probably wasn't quick enough. That's probably the only thing. He probably should have been there quicker. But yeah, it was great finish on his weaker foot as well. So
yeah. I mean, it's one of those. It's probably the one goal, like you said, that you can't really have too much complaint about. It was a great strike from McAllister, who's been, an excellent this season for Liverpool. Like Sam said, they had that seniority midfield. They had a really, really strong midfield where, they're facing against Bergvall and Archie Gray, who again, we all have high hopes for. We think they're going to be great players in the future for us, but right now they're not the finished article. And you're coming up against these, senior players who have done it on the world stage. They're going to be tough to come against, and that's the kind of quality you can get from a player like McAllister. So definitely, but we'll quickly move on from that goal. We'll go on to the third one before half time on Gakpo. Very, very poor defending this one from the corner. And Gakpo, it was a nice finish into the side netting, but you've got to really have some questions about the defending in that. Joey, how were you feeling about that goal and seeing that one go in? For me, that's when I was done. I was like 3 goals in the first half. We're going to go scoring up 3 or 4 in the second.
Yeah. Literally, that was my viewpoint straight away, and it was it brings me back to my point. I think like when you heavily rotate a back 4, I think that's also something that can kind of go against you in sense of there's no cohesion, and I feel like that was another one of those cases then for that goal. And it's just like, again, first goal we're defending too deep. Obviously, McAllister's one, there's not much you can really do about it. But in regards to that, I think like, well, you've got no cohesion in the back 4 or 5, including the keeper, if that's what you want to call it. That kind of plays a huge role in the way that goal kind of unfolds. And I feel like, especially with the crowd up for it at that point, they're like, yeah, we're 2-1 up now. They're gunning for blood. Yeah, I knew as soon as Gakpo put that in the back of the net, I knew, it was all over and it was going to be an onslaught. So. Yeah,
definitely. I was thinking it would be really interesting to see the amount of different back lines we've had this season, with Kinski, Vicario, Davis, Archie Gray at centre back, all these different combinations of players we've had. I bet it's really interesting to see what we've had there. But Sam, how were you feeling when that goal went in? Was it kind of for you game over?
I mean, after the first goal went in, I thought it was game over, to be honest. But I think we've seen the last 3 games in a row, basically, our second phase from the corner is just so bad. Johnson's so easily thrust out of the way, and he manages to score, a good finish. Don't get me wrong, but he scores in between like 5 Tottenham players, and not a single player can get a block in. I mean, you can't really blame Vicario for that, I don't think. I mean, it's right in the corner, it's low, it's through a lot of bodies, but just the fact that we had so many bodies in the box and we couldn't deal with it, and that wasn't the first time that Gakpo had found space in the box. Early on in the game, he had that bicycle kick that if that had gone in, I think I would have just stopped watching it there and then. But this is what happens. We seem to concede so many chances, and everyone seems to take these chances against us. Even you look at the Forest game, they had basically 2 shots and scored both of them. One of them being from the corner, as I said earlier, and it's just disappointing that we just don't seem to have the resolve to defend our box, which is something that, when we had the likes of Jan and Toby, even Eric Dyer, we were putting our bodies on the line and getting those balls out of the box, but we just don't see that these days.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, and this is where you've really got a question, Angela. I was thinking this, this idea that we have this attacking philosophy, but we don't have any kind of defensive structure. And like David's saying, we don't really have any cohesion, in the back line. And it's just, it's so when we were under Poch, when we had, Vertonghen, when we had Alderweireld, Walker, Rose, we played attacking football then, but we still were one of the best defensive teams in the league. And there was never any real issues where we're conceding this many chances a game. I mean, Liverpool, they scored 5 yesterday. It could have been so many more. There was so many chances towards the end of the game. They could have made it 6, 7. And, this is what Ange Postecoglou's Tottenham is. It's just no defensive solidity at all. But yeah, we reached half time and Ange makes a couple of substitutions. You had Pape Sarr come on for Archie Gray. Again, quite a disappointing outing for Gray. But again, it's one of those where it feels hard to put too much blame on him for the situation that he was kind of put into. Not really one that was going to be easy for him. And then also Kulusevski came on for Maddison, who again, had a great assist in the opening moments, but obviously then kind of quieted down in terms of really creating any chances and kind of being that mechanism for Tottenham that he can be. We get into the second half, and then eventually Salah gets his goal, probably the goal that he was dreaming of the night before, cutting inside and putting it into the bottom corner. From that on, the game's dead. But again, a great finish from Salah. He did that whole little selfie celebration, which was a bit of a kick in the teeth when you just feel like there's no respect for Tottenham at all at this moment. Liverpool are just having their day, and Tottenham are just they're just there. It doesn't even matter that they're there. They're just there to be on the end of it. But Harry, how are you feeling? Especially inside the ground, and how are your Tottenham fans feeling around you when that fourth goal went in?
Well, some people left. The same happened with the third goal. Actually, some people started leaving. I don't know if they was going to get a drink for half time or they were just going home. But then, yeah, I knew Salah was going to score because he's probably been the best player in the world this season. Let's be honest, he's unbelievable player. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the defending was poor again. Vicario beaten at his near post, which is obviously as a goalkeeper you never want to get beaten at your near post. But yeah, it's the whole selfie celebration thing. It's like they're playing against traffic cones. You know what I mean? It's like he's posing with the fans. Yeah, it did that goal wound me up a bit. I'll be honest. But
yeah, no, definitely, I get it completely because, I understand, and this is what Nearsighted Remembrance has commented here. About the morale. I understand that we were probably going to lose yesterday, but it's the manner in which you lose. We know we're not going to go toe to toe with Liverpool right now. We're not in the same position they are. Liverpool winning the league. They're a really great team right now. Some great senior players in Van Dijk, Salah, world class players, and we're not going to go toe to toe. But why don't you make it hard for them to win? Make it difficult. Make it a hard game. But after just about half time, they knew it was done. They were ready to start celebrating. And it's just so disappointing when, we've got such a big game coming up on Thursday and we go into it with this result. It's not going to give anyone any confidence going into it. So, no, really, really disappointing. Move on to the final go. I
just wanted to say one thing about... I think that someone in the comments mentioned it, that Kulu has a very easy pass on to Spence, who's overlapping. And this, I think, is an Ange era defining goal. We have a chance to maybe get in the box and get a shot off. We play a sloppy pass, or we don't make the right decision. They play one ball, and they've got a 4-on-4 basically going against their 4 attackers against our defense, who are having to retreat. And basically in 3 passes, the ball's in the back of the net. We've just seen it so many times this season and last season, and I just haven't seen the improvement over the time, and where it's just we can see the same goal over and over and over again.
It's just all or nothing, isn't it? It feels like that's how we play. It's always going to be all or nothing, trying to score any way we can. I saw it towards the end of the game, actually, when I think it was already 5-1. We'd really gone for it towards the end. I think it was maybe the 85th minute, and they had one through ball, and Ben Davies was the only player tracking back. And, I think it was Darwin Núñez who probably should have put the ball away. But it's just completely, it is just that all or nothing. We play, this way, and this is the way we play. And Ange is very, very strict in this style of football. And it kind of seems to always bring us to, you know, this conclusion of losing games. Again, the 19th of this Premier League season is abysmal. Joey, onto that fifth goal, the Udogie own goal. What were what was your thoughts on that? Was it, really anything Udogie could do?
Yeah, I think there weren't much he can do. I think just as a left back myself when I played, it's one of them things that you're kind of taught is to always have your body go side and side on to avoid that kind of contact with the ball where you're facing that way, because it makes it more difficult for you to kind of defend, if that makes sense. So at the end of the day, the cross should have been stopped regardless anyway. But obviously, it's one of those things, and it's one of them comedic things when it comes to Spurs. It's like if you've been shafted like that at Anfield, and then just to put the icing on the cake, we score an own goal just to finish it off, and I'm just lost for words, to be honest. I'm just lost for words. I think, like you said, Joe, it's just like to go up there and just get stuffed. Like, how is that good for the morale for Thursday? I don't think it is. And obviously, rotations was always going to be a big point, but I feel like we still should have kept some people in to keep the match fitness going, so that some of the people were ready for Thursday. Because I feel like some players actually need to consistently play in order to be in tip-top form to go on and play their best for the big occasion. So yeah, for the fifth goal, sorry to go on a bit of a tangent there, but for the fifth goal, yeah, it was just it's done and dusted, really.
No, you're all good, mate. Again, whereas just have that conversation on we'll move on to some more positive things soon, but recapping this game, it's tough. I mean, 6 goals going in, five in your own net. It's hard, and I think we're all really, really frustrated from yesterday. Again, none of us probably expected to win it, but it's just the manner in which you lose it it's really, really shows a lot. Sam, how are you feeling just after that fifth goal went in, and just in general after just what we've been seeing, this absolute shit show, really?
Well, I watched Match of the Day, which was a mistake because they basically didn't even analyze any of the game. They just spoke about basically how good Liverpool are. And they showed clips from other games, which I was like, I'm just trying to get some points for this panel show, man. But they basically said, I think in the build up to the game, that Salah hadn't actually scored for 6 games. And it's like, you can just bet your house. This isn't even an Ange thing. This is just a Tottenham thing. You can bet your house that anyone who's on a barren run of goals is going to score. It was the same thing last week with Chris Wood. We let him just do what he does. And to be honest, I'm just frustrated, and basically, I've only been doing the podcast stuff for, I think, just under a year. And boy, did I pick a time to do it, right? To really get involved in it. And I just think that I'm not proud of Spurs at the moment. I still love the club, right? And I think we all probably feel pretty similar. I still love the club, and I still go out and I wear my Spurs merch. I got torn to shreds by an Ndombele lookalike in my 5-a-side yesterday, wearing my Spurs kit. And, I just think that we've been battered by so many teams, but also by our own club, our owners, our own fans. Everything in the club, I think, at the moment is just not, as someone mentioned earlier, there's no cohesion with basically anything. And we're like a step away from the scenes in the Villa game against Crystal Palace, where the Villa fans are like fighting each other in the stands. That will come at some point, and that will be a very, very dark day for the club. Hopefully, it doesn't happen, but I just think that I feel so separated from the club that we all love, because we all have ideas of how it should be. I mean, that's what football is. Everyone's got opinions on how things should go, but when so many people disagree with the manager, they disagree with the way that the club's run, they disagree with the transfer strategy, I just think it's really hard to feel the togetherness that is needed, especially going into a semi-final and hopefully, fingers crossed, a final of a European Cup. And don't get me wrong, I actually have this weird feeling that we are going to win it. Just how Spursy this season has been, it would be so Spursy for us to win a trophy after actually being the worst probably that I've ever seen us play. But I just, as I said, I think the main thing I feel about Spurs right now is like a lack of proudness. And I'm 26, right? So when I really was getting into football, I've probably been watching it since I was about 9, but when I was really into it and I was sort of 13 going into my new school, it was sort of the start of the Poch era. I remember the Super Jan celebration for his first goal at Man United when we beat them 3-2, and I was watching it with a bunch of gooners for the first time. And from that moment onwards, we were on the up, you know, and I was very, very proud to be a Spurs fan. And over the last 5-6 years, I've just seen that proudness gradually dissipate, and we've gotten to the point we are now where I don't even really recognize the club that we all love.
No, 100%, Sam. I think so many people like mirror what you're saying there in terms of it. I mean, actually, I just brought up a tweet that I tweeted out, and remember, this was reactionary from the game. But I said, Levy, it is embarrassing to support your football team. I'm ashamed to be supporting this Tottenham Hotspur right now. You've built a pathetic atmosphere and ethos around this club. Again, it was reactionary, maybe not exactly how I'm feeling right this second, but it is kind of like what you're saying. There's nothing to be proud of right now. There's nothing in this club where I'm sitting here going, this is why I love Tottenham Hotspur. Because, you know, we haven't got, you know, the manager in the dugout. We haven't got we haven't completely got the players on the pitch. And it's just, you know, a bit of a sorry state for Tottenham right now. It's tough to support this team. And, you know, we're going into a semi-final of a European Cup. You think we'd be up for it. I mean, you think we'd be feeling really positively. But this league form and the season we've had is really put a downer on everything. It's so tough. But, you know, we could go into the wider conversation of Levy, of the recruitment, of everything around Tottenham. But it's just, again, it's such a sorry state right now. It's really, really tough. We will come on to Ange and everyone's opinion on Ange, but we'll finish up again, Harry and Joey. But first of all, Harry, full time 5-1. Were you still in the ground? Were you still kind of waiting to see maybe some of the celebrations for Liverpool? How were you feeling in that moment?
Yeah, everyone else did stay a little bit because I just wanted to see a team actually celebrate winning. Saying I ain't seen us do that, but it's funny because I've seen Liverpool win 2 trophies live. I've seen us win none. So yeah, it's not great.
Tragic, mate. So tragic.
Yeah, nah, it's bad. But yeah, I don't know. I was just really disappointed because, like you were saying earlier about the Poch era, like this is the worst team and like the worst sort of state I've seen Tottenham in my whole life. Like because when Poch got appointed, I would have been 8, right? From when I was 8 to when I reckon it was 12 or 13. That Poch era, going into school after we'd won a game, like I went into every game then thinking we could beat anyone. But now it's like now even the Southampton game a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking, you know, we could actually get done in here. But
I get that feeling. I remember that, like when you just knew we had Harry Kane, we had Eriksen, Ali, all these like fantastic players. Again, the back line was so solid. Every game you felt confident, and even the games we went on and lost, you'd still be like, you know what, fair play. We played a decent game, wasn't terrible, wasn't like I'm so disappointed. It was just like, you know what, we've got a chance in this game. Even again, we played, you know, Real Madrid, we played Barcelona in those moments. We gave them really great games, and it always felt positive. I remember I went to when we were playing at Wembley, we had Barcelona, and we lost, I think, 4-2. Unbelievable game. Everyone came out of it so happy, and everyone was feeling so positive. Yeah, Rakitic scored that worldie really early on. I remember there was a guy still getting to his seat, and he just saw it going. He was like, "Oh fuck!" But it was unbelievable because we all got to see Messi and Suarez be, you know, how amazing they are. But we also saw a Tottenham team that really gave it their all. Yeah. And we were in that game. It was a close game in the end. And I just remember leaving the stadium and everyone was feeling so positive because we had a Tottenham team that we could be proud of.
Yeah.
And now we're going into this European semi-final and we don't have that feeling. None of us have that feeling. So it's really, really difficult.
It does feel very different.
Do you know what the irony is as well is bringing up Wembley? Is I remember I was at the game as well when we beat Liverpool 4-1 at Wembley. You guys remember?
Yeah, I remember.
And literally, if you look at the contrast, we've gone backwards and they went forward. So, because if you know, guys, if you remember, after that game, they literally went out and bought Alisson and Van Dijk, and it literally just changed their whole landscape. And they've obviously gone on to do what they've gone on to do in the last 9 years or so. And we've just regressed pretty much ever since. The game-changing stadium is always going to be the thing to propel Spurs, and it's done nothing but take us even further backwards. It's crazy what we're going through right now.
Yeah, definitely. Before we move on to just maybe a wider conversation on that, there's a question here from the comments. How do any of you feel? Do you feel you have any connection with the players? We'll start with Sam. How do you feel on that? Do you have any connection with any of the players? Maybe some of the younger ones.
I mean, look, like I said, like people can sort of cuss out Solanke's goal record, but I like players who play for the badge, and maybe that's why I'm more on the side of selling Romero if we get the right money, because I just feel like I want players in the club who respect the badge and the fans, right? And Romero being captain and walking off down the tunnel without clapping the fans in the Wolves game, and there are players that, look, obviously I was for no real reason I was really hyped about Bergvall when before he even came to the club. Then I was a little bit worried when I saw him actually play in the in some of the competitions, especially that Galatasaray game. And I'll hold my hands up and say I was saying to people, I think we should loan this guy out because he needs to get some more experience in a tougher league. But since, as I said before, since then he's been, in my opinion, unbelievable considering the age. Look, yes, he's given away, a few goals, but in my opinion, Archie Gray's given away a lot of goals, but because he's been played out of position and he's young, no one's really called him out for it. But, Gray, Bergvall, I do feel something there. And I was lucky enough to be at the, who was the team that we played in like the last game of the Europa League group stages. They were like a Swedish team as well.
Elfsborg.
Yeah, I was at the Elfsborg game, and that night when the academy boys scored those goals, I was actually so emotional because I was like, not only am I here right now, but like this is what every kid who supports their club has dreamed of. And so you could put yourselves in their shoes. Dane Scarlett to come back after a pretty poor few seasons where he's not really had a chance at any of these clubs, to get a goal, like I felt that passion for him. And I don't know why, for some reason, I don't know if it's because I heard all these great managers like Mourinho saying that Scarlett was going to be like the next big thing, but he's like the one player at Spurs I like really, really want more than anything for it to work out for. I'm not sure that it will. I think that ship's kind of passed, but seeing those youngsters score in the home stadium as well, and Ajayi, who basically like has disappeared since then, we've heard nothing about him. And then obviously Moore, you could see how much he wanted to score that goal. His mates, have managed to get on the score sheet before him in less minutes. And he was like, I'm not ending this game without scoring. And you could just see the passion. And that's the kind of thing that Spurs fans love. And, with all the injuries that we've had, that's why I've been kind of disappointed with Ange, that he hasn't trusted the youth a little bit more. And I see comments saying, we're an academy team and blah, blah, blah. But he genuinely has had no choice this season but to play those youngsters. But as soon as he's had the chance to put other players back in, even if they've played well, they're just gone. And that's for me where the disconnect is. But yeah, there's a few players dotted around. And to be honest, as much as Vicario has been pretty shaky, that quote he had where he said, I would have signed in blood and like crawled from Italy or something. I mean, that's the kind of passion that you really, really want, As much as I think that maybe we should replace him in the summer, I do feel a sort of love and passion from Vicario as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think what you really, really want is either, elite professionals, or you want people who love the club and feel the same passion as we do as fans. And it's not easy to get. It's so great when you get it through your academy. Like, you're right, that Elfsborg game, I think it was such a feel-good feeling, something we hadn't had for so long for Tottenham fans, where you saw these academy players that have been with Tottenham since they were really young, grown up through this team, and, probably learnt to love the team themselves, and finally get through and get those goals. It's such a great moment. And I definitely agree with you. I think that's what we can really, that's the connection I feel. You're completely agree with what you say with Romero. I mean, I'm happy for him to leave. As much as he's an unbelievable defender, he clearly has one foot out the door and he's ready to move on. And fair enough, you know, if that's what you want to do, then please go, because I want players who want to be at Tottenham. I don't want players that are using it as a stepping stone. I don't want players who are here, you know, just to get their money and then end up moving on somewhere else. We want the players that truly believe in being a Tottenham player. And they're hard to find at the moment, but, you know, definitely using the youth, that's where you're going to find that. Joey, what about you in terms of like the connection with any players? Is there any like specific ones, or just in general, maybe the same as what me and Sam have said?
For me, I don't really have a connection to many of them. I think I say I have two, and I say one is Jed Spence for me personally, because I remember in an FA Cup game in January of 2019, he's playing for Middlesbrough at right back. And I remember at the time we had Serge Aurier, and I was thinking to myself like Jed was literally killing us. He was literally killing us the whole game. And I remember sitting in the South End, and I remember saying to my pal next to him, I was like, this kid here is special. I said, we need to go and get him. I said he would have been about 18 at the time. So yeah, about 18 at the time. And I was like, this is a player here that we need to come in and be our long-term right back. I said, no, we need him. And obviously went to Forest, had an amazing season, and then we signed him. And ever since then, I was always rooting for him, saying, we need a chance, give him a chance. Obviously, Conte didn't fancy him for whatever reason, and he had talks about his attitude and stuff like that. Fair enough. Something we will never actually know is whether it's true or not, but, you know, that's the perception that was had of him. But to see him come back and, you know, prove, I think, the fan base wrong. Obviously, Andrew was forced to throw him in. He didn't do it by choice because he wanted to. He's definitely forced to do it. And then obviously, Jed made his football do the talking for him. And I think he's been a breath of fresh air. And I think, for me, bar maybe Bergvall, Archie, because of what he's had to obviously go through in regards to being forced to play centre-half for most of the season and out of position and stuff. Centre-half and right-back for majority of the season, I think I'd either give it to either Archie, Bergvall, or Spence for our player of the season, to be honest. But not that there's much great light to be shed on our season. But yeah, I think I'd say definitely Jed and Bergvall, because I feel like we've got a superstar in Bergvall on our hands when he really, you know, gains more experience and irons out his game. I think Bergvall's going to be an amazing player. But yeah, I'd say those three for me personally.
Yeah, definitely. And then what about you, Harry? Do you feel any kind of connection to any of those players on the pitch at the moment?
For me, the main one is my favourite player. I get a lot of stick for this, is Richarlison, because I like the passion he shows. And yeah, like some of his celebrations. What was the game? Frankfurt, I think it was. When we score, he celebrates like a fan. And it's like, I like that. I like players that he'll go on, he'll wind someone. I find him entertaining. I loved him when he was at Everton and Watford as well. So like when he left Watford, I was like, we should sign this guy. He's good. Yeah, Bergvall's an obvious one. I think he's an absolute gem. I think he can be something special. I just hope he doesn't leave before we actually see how good he can be. Jed Spence as well, because obviously we've seen he's been there for years, and now all of a sudden he's actually getting his chance and he's showing what he can do. Because I think Jed Spence has been brilliant this season when he's played. And then, yeah, I did feel it towards Romero, but then recent weeks is kind of like, I don't like the thought of him leaving. But I think if he does go to Atletico Madrid, I think him under Simeone, I think he'll be top, because I think Simeone will do well to like sort of manage his anger in a way. But then yeah, I'm trying to think of some more. Obviously, Son, because he's been there for years, and we'll love him. Although this season and probably last season he's been off it a bit.
Yeah, it feels like he's kind of maybe coming towards the end of his tenure, and especially in the first team. But no, I agree. It's a shame Richarlison can't back it up on the pitch in terms of his actual footballing ability, because I agree, the passion he shows is what we love to see. It's just he hasn't done it enough for us on the pitch. But yeah, anyway, let's move on, just to a wider conversation before we show a clip from a Liverpool fan about his opinion on the game and Liverpool themselves. But first of all, let's go to Ange and how we're all feeling about Ange himself. Again, after the game, seems to come out and have this. It seems like he just has a script every single game. He says the same thing afterwards. saying, "Oh yeah, we were good for this moment, and then we conceded 5 sloppy goals, and then we were all right in this moment." How are you all feeling about Ange? It's a tough question, I know, because we've got a European semi-final coming up, possibly going into a final, but then it feels like he's so close to possibly getting sacked. Even with the possibility of us winning that final, he could still go. So how are we all feeling? Let's go to you, Joey, first, and see so what are you feeling?
It's literally every post-match interview is just rinse and repeat. Stares at the floor. Oh, I think we did well. I think a couple of things have gone against us. We were the better team, even though we got hammered 5-1. And, you know, it's just... I don't even tune in. Whenever I hear him speak, I just zone out and go into my own world, because it's either going to be some absolute shite that he's going to be talking, or he's just deflecting any responsibility or blame that should be falling onto him. And I'm just so bored of it. If I had my way personally, some people might find this controversial, but I wouldn't even give him the 3 games if he was to even get there. I wouldn't even give him the 2 legs and the final potentially if he were to get there. I wouldn't even give it to him. I don't think he even deserves it personally. But, you know, I think the club's obviously riding it out with him. Daniel Levy's pulled the trigger for so much less. And I saw a funny tweet earlier on as well when someone was like, Levy's looking at Postecoglou like he's Mourinho because he doesn't want to sack him before a semi-final just in case. And it's just like he hasn't got nowhere near the pedigree of Mourinho. So how?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's all very pantomime-ish at the moment. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, I do get what you're saying. I guess I do have that concern a little bit because, you know, we look back on when we sacked Mourinho, and I know it was going really poorly during that time, but, you know, to take him away from having that final against City and to put Mason in charge, if thinking back on it, it just genuinely seems so stupid. I can't believe that we did it.
It was mental.
But that's what I mean. And I guess part of me is thinking, do we really want to try that again? Because as much as I don't believe in Ange anywhere near as much as I believed in Mourinho, it's still just the fact that, okay, he's got us to this point. He might as well have the final game to see if he can get us over the line.
No, I'm not saying to sack him. I'm saying if I had my way personally, I wouldn't even let it get this far. I wouldn't even let it get nowhere near this far. So, but
I mean, I've been Ange out for I don't even know how many months now. So I would have happily seen him go, you know, months ago. But it's we're in this position now. So, Harry, what would you do if you are Daniel Levy right this moment? Would Ange be in charge for the game on Thursday for the rest of the season? If he wins the Europa League, would you have him in charge for the next summer, or would you be looking to let him go?
I definitely wouldn't have him in charge for next season, no way. But the rest of the season, I wouldn't, to be honest. If me personally, I would have got rid of him after the Villa Cup game. We got knocked out of 2 cups in a week. Got battered against Liverpool. And that performance against Villa, I thought was embarrassing as well. And then as well, a couple of weeks ago, he's cupping his ear to the fans at Chelsea. And then you don't even come over and clap the fans at the end of the game. So I remember I was there and I was watching him after the game. And I was thinking, is he going to come over? Because he's done the same against Wolves. He didn't come over then either. And I think the least you can do as a manager is go over and clap your fans, even if you lose. Like, you've got to show the balls, I think, to go over and actually show your appreciation for the people that go all over for you. But yeah, till the end of the season, I'm not sure, to be honest, because although we could put Mason in charge, but I don't know. I think we've seen that in a final before, and I don't know. So regarding the rest of the season, actually, I'm thinking about it now. I probably would give it to him because if the league's written off, and for the Europa League, he's got us to the semi-final. And he could get us to the final. So if he's got there, you may as well just let him see it out. But yeah, like Joey said, I would not have let it get this far. I would have got rid of him a long time ago. But yeah, after them cup games, because for a team that's meant to be going all out for the cups, and then because that Liverpool game, I didn't think we was going to win, but I would have thought we were actually shown a bit of heart out there. And then the Villa one, I did kind of think we was going to win, and then we didn't. But Yeah, you can't be getting knocked out of 2 cups in a week. I think that's embarrassing.
Yeah, and that's not even to mention the 19 games we've lost in the Premier League this season. What are we, 16th place right now, something like that in the Premier League. Again, all these issues that Andrew's had, like you say, with at the Chelsea game, with the cup in his ear to the fans, all the other issues he's had. I think there was one at Fulham. Again, just his constant kind of, sensitivity with the journalists in the interview rooms and stuff like that. Just constant issues. It seems like since especially since the beginning of this season. But yeah, Sam, I feel like I have an idea of what you're going to say, but please come in and have your say on Ange, because I know you. I'm sure you're dying to give you that opinion.
I'm gonna maybe sound more controversial than Joey. And the thing is, I'm going to say it, and I think that there'll be some people who agree with it. I would have sacked him after Coventry. And I just think that it was such a bad game. Yeah. And I saw someone say, I think maybe it was Jack from the Irish Hotspur, that Coventry result was like the worst thing that could have happened for us. Because if he'd been knocked out of that cup, they may have sacked him.
Yeah,
and we wouldn't have gotten to the position that we're in. Look, you can't speculate really on sort of hypotheticals. But for me, that was just, personally, I don't think it's ever gotten better from there. And the Tamworth game was another one, and that's why I am kind of fearful if we don't win comfortably at home on Thursday that we might end up going out against Bodø. Because that artificial pitch is haunting my dreams. I think for me, my biggest criticism of Ange, I saw someone tweet that in the first 10 games and for some of the first season, we were all praising Ange because we were seeing this like attacking philosophy, and we were kind of all overlooking the defensive frailties because it was refreshing to see after 4 years of defensive football basically since Poch had left. But this season and sort of towards the end of last season, we've basically moved away from our attacking prowess, let's say. And so our attacking has gotten bad, but we've also not improved defensively. So I don't really see what he does, because I don't really see any real patterns of play. And my biggest gripe, other than the inverted fullbacks, which I could talk about for weeks, and I pretty much since he started playing inverted fullbacks, I've been against it. I don't think he can coach midfielders. And I think it comes back to that comment he made about, we were all saying at the start of the season, like, we desperately need a 6. I think anyone with 2 eyes could, even 1 eye could see that we needed a 6 to sit in front of the back 4. And he said he doesn't believe in like midfield positions. And I think we can all see that, because pretty much every single game, and it was evident yesterday again, and pretty much all the games we've seen this season, the midfield doesn't exist. And he plays, in my opinion, Sarr is a more defensive-minded midfielder, but he plays Sarr as one of the attacking 8s, which basically nullifies what Sarr's good at, because I don't think he's a great passer of the ball. He's athletic. He's a box-to-box midfielder, but he's being asked to be creative, and it kind of ties into the fullbacks, where you're asking your fullbacks to be your most creative players and not allowing the wingers to really get involved. But the midfield, there's just always such a big gap between the defense in the midfield and the attack in the midfield, where I just wonder, like, do we even have any midfielders playing? So yeah, I could go on forever, but that's my main takeaway. I just don't think his system has worked really at all for us, other than those first 10 games, which even in those 10 games, I think we were lucky in quite a few of the results. But yeah. To stop me.
No, I completely get what you're saying. And I think, again, it's good to air out these frustrations, because, this is what we want to have this conversation about. This is what this channel's for, to get everyone in, to have their opinions, get them out and say what they feel. And to be fair, I completely get what you're saying. Especially, I remember watching that Coventry game, and just, even though we won, just feeling absolutely like this was an awful, awful performance. There was nothing positive to take from it. Although we went through, there was nothing positive to take from that game. It was really, really poor.
Jed literally saved him.
Yeah, he did.
Of all people.
It was a really, really disappointing game. And no, I completely get what you're saying. I think a lot of people are ready for Ange to go. I think one thing I've always said is, I think Ange Postecoglou, he proved like when he was at Celtic, that when he's got the best 11 players on the pitch, when he's got the best 11 players in the league, he can go and do well. But as soon as you're in a team where you haven't got that, every player is unbelievably world-class compared to your opponents, you're going to struggle. And we've seen that. Tottenham are never going to have that team, unless we go and spend billions more than, or millions more than any other team. We're never going to have that, where we're going to have the best 11 players on the pitch at every time. He had that at Celtic. You're never going to have that at Tottenham. So no, I think a lot of people agree with all three of you that Ange's time is up, and no, maybe it'll probably end up being that we'll see how he ends the season. I feel like even if he wins the Europa League, he's probably going to get sacked. But Harry, were you going to say something?
Yeah, another thing with Ange though is I feel like every morning after a game that we lose, which has been most of the time this season, I feel like every morning I'm going to wake up, see a picture of a corner flag, club announcement, he's gone. But I just haven't. We haven't had that yet. It's like I've never had that of a manager before. I think they could get sacked at any given time. But yeah, it's like,
genuinely the amount of drama.
When I was on the way back from Chelsea, I was thinking, yeah, I'm going to see it on the train. Going to see he's gone, but nah,
this doesn't happen. Ever since Levy said we got our Tottenham back, it's just been downhill.
Yeah.
But yeah, go on, Joe. What were you going to say?
Can I say as well? I was going to say, what was I going to say? I'll be honest as well. I might be a bit harsh here, but I feel like a lot of people got to go with him. I think Ryan Mason needs to go with him. I think Mile Jedinak needs to go with him. Scott Munn needs to go with him. I feel like Spurs has become like an internship for coaches and managers, because none of these guys are competent enough to be managing a big club to be working in a big club like Spurs. None of them have got the credentials yet. Why are we hiring so many inexperienced people for these big roles? To me, it doesn't make sense. How can you want to operate at the top level, but have novices working within your major areas of your football club? It makes absolutely no sense. So to be honest, I'm not even in regards to the signings. People were getting confused with the signings. Oh, we bought Solanke for 65 million. Or we bought Brennan for 50 million. But they're both on less than 100 grand a week. That's where Levy's like making his little chess moves. It's just so incompetent in all aspects. So I'm not even surprised that we're in the situation we're in. To be fair, it shouldn't be this bad. But you know what? You know what I mean in hindsight. Like,
your point about the coaches, I don't necessarily agree about Ryan Mason, but I think that's again because I remember when he scored against Forest in the FA Cup or whatever it was. I was at that game at the Lane, and it was a banger. And I feel like because he's come through the club, I wanted.
You got a bit of an emotional attachment to him.
Yeah,
exactly.
I get it. The rest of them, it's like a lot of people have criticised the fact that Ange is like a statue on the sideline, and the coach. You made a really good point about like internship. Like no one has the seniority or experience to go to Ange and say you should do this. You look at like every other club in world football, it doesn't matter what level, the coaching staff and the manager are constantly talking about the game, what's going well, what's not going well, what changes they can implement. And it just feels like, I don't know if it's that the coaches are just at this point seeing as they've not really got like a affiliation or a loyalty to Ange because they're all fairly new. You know, he brings the new coaches everywhere he goes. But I don't know if it's whether they're willing to let him die on his own sword or they don't feel competent or confident enough to actually say to him, like, come on, mate, like, this is not working. You need to do something different. And like, why are we waiting 80 minutes in games to make subs? Like the Frankfurt game, we could have won that game, the first game, with an injection of fresh legs, and they did that, and you know we could have easily lost that even though we dominated them. And I just think that your point about the internship is like such a big thing, and it feeds into the players because you've got all these young moldable players. And you know, I don't think that there's anyone in the squad who's actually, other than Bergvall at the moment, who's actually come on leaps and bounds since they've come in. You know, everyone's had flashes. You see last season for periods, Pedro Porro, I thought, had really turned it around. He was defending well. You know, Kulusevski started really well, but he's been pretty dire for the last few months. I know he's been injured, but before his injury, I also thought he just looked really tired, which again is down to man management. But I just think that from head to toe in the club, no one questions any of the senior people, whether that's Ange or it's the higher ups. And then you see the players come out and say stuff, and then some fans get angry about what's being said. I'm not angry about Romero and Kulu and that coming out and saying the stuff, but it's the timing and it's the place of it that for me annoys me. But I don't think that they're wrong. And it's the same thing with Conte. He wanted to get sacked, and admittedly at that point watching Conte football, I couldn't do it. It really took it out of me, and I didn't even want to go to the games anymore. But everything he said pretty much in that Southampton rant was correct, and the club hasn't moved on since then pretty much, and we've just brought in yes men. So
yeah, no, definitely, I get what you're saying. I think we could go on for hours about Levy, about the people below him, about where the state of the club is in, and who should be coming in, and all this kind of thing. But let's at least get through the rest of the season, and then hopefully maybe some of those conversations will be had. I mean, we can probably expect a new manager, and with that becomes new coaches. But we don't know who that will be yet. But let's first of all, before we get to Bodø Glimt, let's get an opinion from a Liverpool fan. Doug from what's the channel called? Doug from the Dugout Football Channel has come and gave us a clip of his opinion on the game. So let's quickly play a clip of that.
Hello everyone on Scarfey Football Talk. I'm here to give you a match reaction to Liverpool 5, Tottenham 1. For a long time, it didn't look like... well, first of all, I didn't predict 5-1. I did predict 4-0, so I'll say that now. I'll say that now to start it off. But basically, before the game, the scenes before the game, you could see that we were in a party mood. And boy, you did try your best to spoil the party. Obviously, Solanke scoring in the first half, lovely header, I've got to say, as well. Solanke did actually play well. Solanke did really play very well. And then after that, plain sailing, it was almost like the red arrows. Almost, obviously Diaz getting the first one, and then Alexis McAllister getting the second. Absolute beauty. I keep saying this, I don't think McAllister scores simple goals, I just think he scores absolute bangers, to say the very least. And then, obviously, Cody Gakpo got the third goal, which is very good as well. And then, after that, 4-1, 5-1, Salah, very good finish. And then, obviously, the selfie with the crowd as well. And then, obviously, Destiny Udogie, OG, at the end there, 5-1. Look, I'll say this now, it's been a very poor season for Tottenham. It has been a very poor season for Tottenham. For us, I didn't expect us to win the league. I don't think anyone expected us to win the league, but it has been a very good season, and I'm absolutely chuffed to bits. And I think there's gonna be one heck of a party in Merseyside tonight, as well. So I'll say that as well. But no, your main focus now, I would say, is obviously the Europa League against Bodø Glimt. You get past them, you're in a final. And I think as well, you'll be looking forward to seeing the back of this season, because 18 league defeats is not great at all. So, but no, look. Thank you very much for asking me how to do a wee match reaction. Apologies for my voice. I have been nursing a little bit of man flu recently, so I don't think drinking alcohol has helped much as well. But thank you very much for watching my match reaction, and I wish everyone at Tottenham and Harry Scarfe Football Talk as well all the best for the rest of the season. Bring that Europa League home. Bring that Europa League home. Because obviously, Ange gets a trophy in his second year as a manager. So, we'll see anyway. But thank you very much for watching. And good luck for the rest of the season.
Well, thank you to Douglas for bringing that in. And thank you for wishing us luck in the rest of the season. If anyone's interested in watching more of Douglas, please be sure to check out his channel. Doug Out Football channel. It's great to get other fans' perspectives on the game rather than just getting kind of the negativity that we're going to bring with Tottenham losing. Final thoughts before we get on to Bodø Glimt. Just kind of, a couple thoughts on Liverpool. They were very, very good yesterday, we've got to say. As much as Tottenham were disappointing, Liverpool came out and provided a very professional display. What's everyone's thoughts on Liverpool's season? First of all, Harry, what was your thought? Liverpool going on and winning the league, probably not expected, after Arne Slot's first season. I don't think anyone really expected Liverpool to be as impressive as they were.
Yeah, I didn't expect Liverpool to be where they are at the start of the season, to be honest. But I do kind of think, although Liverpool have been very good, I do think a lot of it has come down to a lot of the teams that you would have thought, like Man City, for example, being so inconsistent. Obviously, Rodri getting injured at the start of the season is massive for Liverpool to go on and win the league. So I do think a fair bit of it has come down to a lot of the other teams being quite poor. But obviously they've done well. They've won a Premier League, so you can't knock them too much. But yeah, what we were saying about the party, I saw some of that before the game. They were all going mad around an Esso garage. So yeah. It was a good atmosphere for them, but in some ways it does make me quite jealous, thinking, why can't it be us? Because I'd love to see us have a party like what they had last night, because it did look good. But then I saw this tweet the other day saying that an Everton fan bought some blue flare and wrapped them red, and I saw a photo yesterday. Is actually a blue flare in the sky, so that was quite funny to see on the way back.
That was funny, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But props to Liverpool for being as impressive as they were this year. A lot of talk, especially as well. They had the kind of constant humming of the contract situations with Salah, with Van Dijk, and with Trent, and they kind of shut all of that out. If that was at Tottenham, that's all we'd be talking about, and it would probably take over the club. But for them, they kind of got on with it and still got through the season, and obviously kept two of them. Possibly, we don't really know what will happen with Trent. Probably who'll end up leaving. But Joey, what were your thoughts just on Liverpool's season and just how impressive they were yesterday as well?
I think they've been fantastic, to be honest. I think they've taken a little bit of criticism, a bit of harsh criticism in regards to their European campaign. Obviously, when they went out to PSG in the manner that they did, I think that kind of put a bit of, not a stain as such on their season, but they got a bit of criticism that I don't think it was justified in regards to that. But I think they've done well. I think Arne Slot deserves a lot of credit coming in and winning the Premier League in his first season, especially when they barely made any signings in the summer as well, and he just had to literally use the tools he was given in regards to the players that were already there under Klopp's regime. So I think Arne Slot deserves a lot of praise. Obviously, Mo Salah being the best player in the world this season. Another thing that's another great thing for them as well. And I think, obviously, like you said, Joe, having to obviously go through the whole saga of Trent, Virgil, and Salah's contract situation, I think they managed to steer that ship well. And obviously, I speak for every single Spurs fan that exists that's buzzing that they've won it and Arsenal haven't. So yeah, I'm super happy, like everybody else is, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Sam, how are you kind of feeling about it? Just seeing that comment kind of makes me, it makes me think, that Spurs could have got Arne Slot instead. We're stuck with this Aussie guy. But yeah, it's a big task, to take the reins off of Jurgen Klopp, who's been one of their most successful managers in recent history, and for him to go and Arne Slot to come in and have such a successful first season, it's really impressive.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, we couldn't have gone out to get Arne Slot because he rejected us like a lot of managers did over those 2 summer windows, which is why, not to get all doom and gloom again, I'm concerned what happens if we do sack and who comes in. But for Liverpool, a lot of teams, and especially us, we joke that the quadruple's still on, right? You beat Coventry in the cup and you go, the quadruple's still on, boys, we can still do the quadruple. They say that at the beginning of the season and they mean it. And other than a dodgy final game against Newcastle in the Carabao Cup, and probably their worst 2 performances of the season against PSG in the Champions League, Obviously, they go out against Plymouth as well. This is the problem. The thing with cup football, anything can happen in one game, but they really go out and believe every season that we can actually win the quadruple, and that's why I think, as you guys mentioned about, they did well to sort of quash all the noise around the contract situations, because they're actually a serious club that wants to win stuff. And, you see all these Liverpool fans that complain about FSG. It's like, try having Levy for 25 years. I'm 26. He's literally been at the club like almost the same amount of time that I've been alive. I've seen nothing else, and I've never seen them put anything in. And, they didn't really sign anyone this season. They signed Chiesa, but Klopp left them with a very, very good squad. And I will admit, I was thinking that, especially if, because this is now the second season where Salah and Van Dijk and Trent have all been linked away. I was thinking that they would struggle, to be honest. I didn't see them coming out of and winning it in their first season. But as you say, you've got to really hold your hands up to slot. And it looks like, Van Dijk and Salah are going to stay for at least another season. And you wouldn't put it past them doing it again, because other teams, City are going to have to rebuild. I think their squad is really slacking at the moment. I don't think that the other teams in the top four this season will do as well. I think that Nottingham Forest will fall away. The lesser teams, with all due respect, are going to struggle in Europe and playing in the Premier League. So I think that if Liverpool can, make a few smart signings, they'll probably replace Robertson. They'll probably sign another right back, although I think Conor Bradley is a good player. And they basically sign a forward every single window, so they'll probably sign another forward. And they could go and win multiple trophies again next season, and you wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very impressive season from Liverpool. Again, you're right. It's tough to they have that expectation going into the season that we're going to challenge for trophies. It's a shame that we can't have that. We were promised that we were going to have that when we went to this new stadium, but it all kind of went wrong when Kane left. So that's the position we're in now. But anyway, let's move on to Bodø Glimt. There's still a chance we could win a trophy this year, so let's not be too negative. We've got a massive semi-final, probably the biggest game of our season. Biggest game maybe since the Champions League final for Tottenham, coming up on Thursday at home to Bodø Glimt, the Norwegian side, I'm pretty sure. I didn't know too much about Bodø Glimt kind of going into this. I think all of us were maybe expecting, Lazio or just, a bit of an unknown with Bodø Glimt. They're not a very well-known European side, but, this season they beat Porto during the kind of groups or the league stage. Obviously, they beat Lazio to get to us. They had a close game with Manchester United. I think they beat Braga with 10 men. They had some really, really close games, and they've beaten some good opposition. So we can't underestimate them at all. For them to get to a European semi-final proves that they're going to be a decent side. So I think the one positive for Tottenham is there is a couple of injury concerns. I don't know if anyone saw some reports from Alistair Gold where it looks like their starting centre-back might be injured for this game, which is, massive for Tottenham. Obviously, a couple of, 3 suspensions from the Lazio game for this game. So they are looking a little short-legged in terms of, players out. Obviously, for Tottenham, possibly Son's going to be out. We don't really know too much about his injury and when he's looking to come back. Maybe for some Tottenham fans, they might say it's a bit of a blessing in disguise. Maybe with Tell showing a bit more in the last couple of weeks, the kind of player that he could be. But what's everyone's thoughts ahead of this game? Is anyone going to the game, first of all? But also, how are we feeling? Because this is, massive. I feel like, again, moving on from that Liverpool game, I'm sure some Tottenham fans do still have some confidence going into this. So, first of all, Harry, how are you feeling about the game?
Quite well. I don't know about confidence. I don't really know what Bodø Glimt are like, but I do think that we need to get a good home win. I do think, even if we leave that with 2-0, I'll still be a bit about going away, because the freezing cold water is going to be there. Obviously, it's going to be a completely different sort of environment to what the players are used to. So I think we need to go out there on Thursday and get a good win. The injuries and that for them probably going to do us quite a big favour. Well, hopefully. I don't really know too much about them, to be honest, so I can't really comment on them. But I just hope we go full throttle and actually proper go for it.
Yeah.
And as well, I think because I think they're doing a tifo for the game as well. So I think the fans need to proper get behind the team and actually make like a good atmosphere in that stadium, because we know how loud it can get, because we know what it was like at the start of last season. So I think everyone needs to be up for it. I think the fans need to be up for it as much as the players do, to be honest, because if you can make quite a good atmosphere in that ground, then obviously you could probably put off their players. Because you see that a lot for these European teams. They, like Galatasaray, for example, start of the season when we played them, they made a good atmosphere, and I think our players got a bit scared, to be honest with you. So let's hope we can do the same to them.
Yeah, no, that hostile atmosphere definitely plays a part, doesn't it, in those away European games. And you know, I think Bodø Glimt have like a 8,000 seater stadium, a really, really small stadium, but I'm sure they'll try and keep, you know, get some kind of atmosphere going. You know, and they've already, you know, they already have the you know, the 3G pitch and that, you know, cold temperature and everything that they're used to that we won't be used to. So I think you're right, Harry. We need to kind of take a lead to Norway when we go there. Joey, how are you feeling about the game? You know, again, massive game in Tottenham's season. How are you feeling? What are your expectations? You know, what do you think Tottenham can do going into it?
It's all or nothing, really. I think, like, I'm going to echo pretty much what Harry said. I think we've got to go into that game and really go for it. We have to win, and we have to win significantly too. I think 2-0 will be okay, but I feel like I think a third will really put us in a great position to really go on and get to the final and obviously try and get a result over there. But yeah, first and foremost, I think the fans, I will be going. So yeah, I think the fans, we got to really get behind the team. I think the club even put out themselves that everyone's got to try and come in all white to kind of create a proper atmosphere and, you know, have like a sea of white to kind of obviously get under the skin of the opposition. So yeah, I think that's a major thing. But yeah, I think first leg we have to really, really do well and give it to them. And in regards to the second leg going over there, I think it's going to be another emulation of Tamworth, I think. But obviously the weather is going to be a complete different situation. So I think, yeah, obviously 8,000 seater stadium, plastic pitch, probably going to be quite frosty and stuff out there. But I feel like the players need to, again, put a good shift in the first leg so that we can go into that second leg and be in a good position. That way we can just, you know, keep what we have and kind of have like another Frankfurt away situation where we can just really go in there and keep it tight and defend and get ourselves to Bilbao.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. I think there's you know, when we saw that draw, I think we were all kind of looking at it like, wow, this is a real opportunity for Tottenham. You don't usually play a team like this in a semi-final of a European trophy. Though, I mean, the one thing I would say, where I've watched a little bit of, you know, highlights from where Bodø Glimt have played in the Europa League, they seem to counter-attack very well. It's like a fast tempo, some really clinical passing and finishing. So that, you know, again, we can't underestimate them at all. But Sam, how are you feeling going into this? Again, biggest game of the season. You know, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a bit of Bodø this season as well, and I watched their part of their game against Lazio, the home game, and they were clinical in that game, you know, and that's something that I've sort of worried about for us this season. As I mentioned earlier in the show, like, we can see a lot of chances, and if we give this team chances, especially at home, away for us, they will score them. But I've seen a lot of people sort of saying, "Oh, don't underestimate Bodø Glimt," which, don't get me wrong, I'm not, because I've seen us lose to some real poor quality teams in my time. You know, teams that you've also never heard of and never heard of since, like Enes Mura, for example.
Yeah, I remember that game.
But I saw a tweet that I've got up, basically listing like a few of the opponents that Bodø have lost to in the last 2 seasons. It's Club Brugge, Lech Poznan, PSV, FC Zurich, FC20, and Karabag, which was this season. I think they haven't, other than that one game, they haven't lost at home in the Europa League this season. So obviously there's that as well. But it's not like they're some massive team that we'll put everyone to the sword. We do have a very good chance. And let's be honest, I think we'll all agree that we're happier playing Bodø Glimt than we are playing Bilbao or Man United
100%.
in semis. So I saw a few people in the comments earlier when I was saying that as Spursy as it would be, I think we'd win the Europa League. The reason I think that is because we do have a few players who have won trophies, and I think that as much as I've had my criticism of Romero, I think that this is the business end of the season is where he'll turn up, and he will hopefully, fingers crossed, touch wood, cross every part of my body, he will inspire the players to victory in these games, and he will just turn it on because he's been there and done it in with all due respect, even bigger competitions than the Europa League. And I just think that as long as we can stay fit and the players actually turn up, which I think getting to the semi-final of a major competition, if they can't turn up for that, then they might as well just go home and not play ever again. But I just think that there's something in the air for us at the moment that as crap as we've been all season, I think it's 21 losses in all competitions or something like that. Maybe even 22 now with that last loss. That is genuinely shocking. And our home form, losing 8 league games or something, it's equal to record for us, or it's broken a record at home. Just something about it. I just feel like we're going to do it. And I agree with the boys. I do think we need to win by 3 goals in the home game. Ideally, obviously, not concede in the home game, just to bring back some sort of feel-good factor after a pretty poor couple of weeks since we sort of played the Frankfurt game. And even before that, to be honest, let's be real. But that Frankfurt game gave me a lot of confidence that we can dig in when it really matters, and that as much as Ange has said he won't change, he drops a 5 at the back in that game, which was arguably a masterstroke from him, because in other games we would have conceded. And I think one of the biggest criticisms or fears that I've had for Ange since he joined was about knockout football. And I was seeing teams hold out 1-0 wins and thinking, Ange would just never be able to do that. From what we've seen, I just don't believe Ange would be able to hold out a 1-0 win. And, on Thursday, a couple of weeks ago, he proved me and probably a lot of people wrong that, maybe he has got a little bit about him in these games, that he's willing to concede his ethos, let's say, to just dig in deep, or maybe he just adapted to the performance. But I think that, as we say, as long as we can get a comfortable lead or a semi-comfortable lead in the home game, then I think we can go to the final, and then it just depends on who and how we play. But I'm quietly confident that we can do it. I won't be shouting from the rooftops, but I will say it.
Yeah, go on, Joey. You've got something to say.
I just want to say one thing, and I hate to be the one to say it, but I don't know if anyone's seen, but Bodø Glimt actually knocked out Ange, or beat Ange when he was at Celtic, both home and away.
5-1 aggregate.
With the aggregate score of 5-1, yeah. So,
well, it's the hope that kills you. Again, we got to see how it goes, haven't we? But no, I mean, I agree with you, Sam, in terms of especially that Frankfurt game. We saw a whole different Tottenham than I think we've been used to seeing this season, and ever since we've really had Ange. And I think the one thing you're right in saying with, we expect some of these players to kind of up their performance. I think Joey was mentioning that too, is you can still see the togetherness within the squad, even when this season has been as awful as it has. We saw on the final whistle, the team were absolutely ecstatic to get through that Frankfurt game. And it feels like, I don't know if it's, they feel like it's us against the world, even in terms of them as a squad, and, the fan base don't believe in them, and outside noise, all of this. But they seem to be really, really together. So I really think they're going to, really come around each other and try and get over the line to get to this final. We'll go on to a couple of just lineup ideas for you guys. So Harry, what are you thinking in terms of a lineup? Is there any players you kind of want to see play rather than, some of the others, especially some of the players that didn't play on yesterday?
If I'm honest, I'd just go full strength. It's weird because a lot of people their full strength team is completely different to other people's opinions on it. It's like, whereas I think under Pochettino, for example, I know I'm going back to that, but we had a set 11, and that 11 would play every game. Whereas now it's kind of like, everyone's kind of the same level. But yeah, I want to see Bergvall play. I want to see Solanke play. I do want to see Tell play as well.
Who would be your wing back pairing?
I would personally go with. Well, I know Ange won't, but I would have gone with Spencer Udogie. But I know obviously because Porro didn't play yesterday, I'd assume that he would probably play on Thursday. And especially because, like what you're saying, if they're a counter-attacking team and we've got Porro playing, I think we could end up in trouble with that. I think that could end up actually being quite a poor decision because we know what he's like. He can get caught up. He could be on the edge of their box and they'll be attacking. So I think if that does happen, I think that's quite a poor tactical decision. But yeah, I'd obviously go Romero and Van der Ven at the back because I just think them two speak for themselves. Really, I think they're top. But yeah, I was saying the other day, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Van der Ven doesn't start a league game this season for the rest of the year, but he probably will. But personally, I wouldn't because I'd want to keep his hamstring intact because if that goes, I think we could be in trouble again. Although I do like Danzak.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. Joey, would you make any changes to what Harry said there, or any other kind of comments on just the lineup that we could go into that game?
In regards to the back four, I agree with Harry. I'd go with Jed as well, but as we all know in hindsight, Ange definitely ain't gonna do that. So yeah, I think it's gonna be the usual one of Udogie, Van der Ven, Romero, Porro. I think he'll go with Bentancur at the base in midfield, Bergvall, and probably Maddison. I'd like to see Togo on the left for sure, and yes, Solanke through the middle, and then the right side. I think I'm gonna go.
I think it'll probably be Kulusevski.
It'll be Kulusevski, yeah, but I'm just so unpredictably weird that I can see him. I can just picture him putting Brennan there, and then he'll either then drop Bergvall and put Kulusevski in midfield instead. But I would personally think Kulusevski has to go on the right instead of Johnson. But I just got a weird inkling for some reason that I feel like he's going to put Brendan on the right. I hope he bloody doesn't. But yeah, I just got a weird feeling that's what he's going to do.
I mean, it's difficult because, like, I agree. I think it should be Kulusevski, but it's clear to see that Kulusevski's best position is through the middle. I don't think he does anywhere near as much on the right. But obviously, you've got Maddison there. You think he probably will just go with the strongest team. So maybe I would go Kulusevski definitely over Brennan. But Sam, do you have any other final comments on that? Any other things you maybe change with that that kind of lineup?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd play Destiny if I had the decision. Not because I think that Destiny is not a good player. I just think that Spence has been much better on the left than he has been on the right. I think that that's a system thing because I think that we were all excited when Spence came in and Destiny was back to see Spence play on the right. And I think that every time he's played on the right, he's actually been fairly poor. Not like really bad, but I think he's been much less effective than he has done playing left back. And I think that the system kind of suits him playing as a left wing back. And I just think that he's probably more match fit and sharper than Destiny is. And Destiny would be good off the bench. And I think that, Porro, his delivery is important for us, especially if they're going to sit deep and try and counter us. I know that the reverse of that argument is, as the boys said, like on the counter, Porro is very susceptible. But I just think that in general, our system is very susceptible to counters, regardless of who's playing there. So I'd probably play Spence and Porro as my right and left back. And then my midfield, I think it was Joey. I agree with him. Bergvall, Bentancur, Maddison. I get your point about Kulusevski, but I think that Kulusevski in the middle works when teams give you space because he likes to dribble with the ball. And I think that we've seen a lot since Ange has come in. We're not afforded that space. And that's where a player like Maddison is required, as long as he doesn't drop to left back like Ange wants his players to do, so that the fullbacks can get forward. But as long as Maddison can sort of pick out some passes, I think that would be good for us. I think that he probably plays Tell on the left, Solanke up front, and then I think that Kulu does come in on the right. I think that the fact that Brennan started this game against Liverpool, for me, makes me think that Kulu's gonna play, and that Brennan will come off the bench. And I think that that's better for us, because against tired legs, if they're thinking, especially if we've scored, fingers crossed, obviously, having Brennan off the bench and, maybe you bring Odebear onto the left as well, it just gives you something a bit more unpredictable and obviously a bit of pace and fresh legs to go at more tired defenders. And I can see Richie probably getting like 20 minutes as well to sort of run out, but I don't see him starting. Yeah,
no, I get what you mean. I think we will see a couple of those players come on. Hopefully Odebear, because I think he's been really promising in moments. Same with, Tell starting. I've been impressed with him over the last couple of weeks. Not the best performance from him yesterday, but definitely showing some promises as to why Tottenham are possibly going to look at that purchase. Last couple of things, guys, and then we'll wrap it up today. What's your score prediction for tomorrow? So I'll go with not tomorrow, on Thursday. So we'll go with you first, Harry, and then also I want to ask you one last question after that.
My head says 2-0 win, but then my heart says 3-0, because I think we need that third goal to probably push us on for the away leg, because like I said earlier, I think that's gonna be hard. So I think we need to get all we can on Thursday. But yeah, I do think we're gonna win. I can't see a world where we lose at home. I look like a bit of a dope now if we lose, but I can't see us losing at home.
Joey, what are you thinking in terms of a score prediction?
I'm hell bent on 2-0. Just my mind just keeps telling me it's going to be a 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, and then we're still going to have a bit to do in the second leg. I think the positive that I've heard coming out of the Bodø Glimt camp is one of their main players. I think it's their centre midfield player. I think he's suspended.
I think they've got about 3 suspensions for this game, and they've also got a couple of injuries that are, again, to some key players that could end up keeping them out. So definitely, a weaker side than even, they usually would have. So
I think that'll play into our favour a little bit, and I'm going to go for a 2-0. That's what I feel the most. So 2-0.
And Sam, what are you thinking for a score prediction on Thursday?
As much as I'm confident, I struggle to see a world where we don't concede. So I think that we'll win 3-1. I'm not sure whether we'll concede first or whether we'll play really well and be 3-0 up and concede one like really scrappy, like last minute sort of goal, just to give them that little inkling of hope going into the home game that they can sort of get us to extra time. I just think that if we can't get the win at home, then it is over. So I'm holding out all hope that we can at least get a 2-goal cushion to take to their place.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that should give us a bit of confidence, although they did beat Lazio, I mean, they were 2-0 up in that first leg, and they ended up, going 3-0 down in the second. So they're not impenetrable. We know we can get goals. We know we can score against this team, and with the players missing as well, it's really, it should give the players a lot of confidence. But final question for you all. I'll start with you this time, Sam. Do you think we're going to win the Europa League? I know you've said it already, but do you really feel like this is Tottenham's year for it?
I just think that with the crazy nature of this season, I just think we're going to do it. As I said about Romero as well, I just think that these players will put in their all to make sure that we lift it, and it will be excellent. My little brother graduates from the University of Virginia, so shout out to him in like a month. And so I'm going to Virginia with my family to see the graduation, and we get back on the 19th. So the game's on the 21st, I think. So it's like one day, a little bit of rest, and then out to Bilbao. It's got to be done. Even if I can't get a ticket to the game, I've got to be there. I did the same thing for the Champions League final. I went with my older brother and my dad. We just went and soaked up the atmosphere in Madrid. And obviously it wasn't the perfect result. So hopefully it's not quite a repeat like that. But I just think that on our day, which has been very few and far between this season. I do think that we can put teams to the sword, and I've not been impressed with United, and I've not been impressed in this few Europa League games that I've watched of Bilbao either. They look like they missed quite a lot of chances, but as I've said a few times, anyone can score against us. So it just comes down to who wants it more, basically. And I hope we play United, because I feel like in their own stadium, Bilbao will just be a different beast.
I know it's good to have that confidence, though. I think it's something that Tottenham fans don't usually have most of the time. But I think if we can really go into that game positive, if we make it there, that anything can happen in a final. Joey, what are you thinking? Do you think we can win the Europa League?
I do think we can. My mind's telling me no, but my body's telling me yes. I think it would be such an ironic situation where Harry Kane wins his first trophy and Spurs do something in the Europa League and win it. It'd just be so... In a different universe, things could be so different. But I just think that
poetic, innit?
Yeah, I think it could be just one hell of a storyline. But yeah, I think we can do it. I definitely feel more confident if you were to play Man United, if you were to get to the final. Whereas playing Bilbao in their stadium, I think it will be a bit of do you know what I mean? But nah, man, it's all we have left. Like you said, it's the hope that kills. So take that hope into the next 3 weeks, and hopefully we do it, man.
Yeah. And Harry, how are you feeling? Do you think we could win it?
Yeah, I think we'll win it. Because the amount, I think it would sort of be quite ironic in a way. Like the amount of times I've been asked the question of, would you be happy finishing 16th and winning a trophy? And it's like, now it could actually be the case. It's like, would you rather finish 16th and win a trophy or finish in the top four? And now it's like we actually could genuinely be in that sort of boat. But yeah, like I think we've just got to we've got to get there first. Because I think if we play Man United in the final, I think we beat them, because we've beaten them 3 times already this season. But Spurs are like, it could be typical for us. The one time we lose to them this year will be in a final when it actually properly matters. But then just the whole thing of being in Bilbao, I think, would be brilliant. Because I remember Madrid, like just having all the Spurs fans there in that fan zone, everyone like singing together and all this. Like, I want that again, like this year, cause, in the sun as well. It always makes it so much better. So yeah, if that is the case, I think we're winning it. I think we're winning it. Yeah,
those European games just feel different, don't they? I remember that Frankfurt win. Like, I felt so great after winning that game. It just feels different. Feels different when you get those. So we've all just got to pray and hope that we can get there to that final and then, turn up on the day. But that will bring us to the end of this podcast. Quite a long one. But thank you all for sticking by and watching all the way through on all the different channels where you're watching. Thank you to all our guests, Harry, Joey and Sam. It's great to have you on, especially a couple of debuts in there. So obviously you're always welcome back on the channel. First of all, Harry, where can people find you if they're looking for any social media pages or any channels you've got?
I do like vlogs of the games I go to, Spurs games. HG17 is the channel name. I haven't put out the one from yesterday yet because I dread to watch it back because obviously the result. But yeah, you can watch that. I'll be out later tonight. But then there's obviously the previous games on there. And then it's the same on Instagram, but with a dot and an X at the end as well. So yeah, thank you for hosting it, and thank you for Harry for inviting me on.
Yeah, definitely. No, you're always welcome back. No, great to have you on and a great guest. Joey, you're a bit more of a regular now on the channel. It's great to have you in here as well. Where can people find you on social media and any other channels you've got?
So that's Joey Huncho 1 on TikTok and Instagram, and then my dedicated Tottenham page, or Tottenham vlog page, I should say, for me going to all the games and stuff, is Tottenham Joe 23. And I obviously do YouTube as well. My YouTube channel is called Benchview Sport TV. If you want to catch some other stuff, which is more, it's not so much Tottenham based, but it's pretty much everything amongst the Premier League and La Liga and world football and stuff like that. So that's another platform you can find me on. But yeah, also I just want to say, Joe, you've been a great host this evening. And also again, thank you to Harry for inviting me on again for the third time. I'm getting used to the sofa now, so hopefully be back soon. And thank you. Nice to meet you both, Harry and Sam as well. It's been a pleasure as well. Thank you.
Nice to meet you, mate.
Thank you, Joey. No, I really appreciate that. Yeah, first time hosting, so it's gone really well. It's been great talking to some new guests and some old ones as well. It's just been really, really good to talk Tottenham. Sam, last of all, where can people find you on social media or any other channels you've got?
Yeah, so I haven't got an official channel yet. I'm kind of like, I don't know if I want to do a channel or not, but you can find me on Twitter or X, Spurs Undercover. Undercover because I spent a lot of my life living in West London, so yeah, had to keep it under wraps a little bit around there. But yeah, I just talk a lot of crap really on Twitter. Get frustrated while I'm at work.
Sam, I'm from Islington. Don't worry, mate. It's all right. I'm on the border.
Yeah, I live in Camden as well, so I'm in Camden now. So there's a lot of gooners around here, but. You can also find me. I do a weekly panel with the Irish Hotspur. So we're on. Normally it's Tuesdays, but we're on Wednesday. If anyone wants to come over to that as well, and we just talk sort of similar to sort of this. And yeah, I really appreciated being called on for Harry. I thought it was he asked me a while ago if I wanted to come on, and when he said April, I thought it was like he's just sort of palming me off. But when he messaged me a couple of weeks ago, being like, "You still good for Monday 28th?" I was like, "Oh, like yeah, I am." So appreciate him having me on. Joesph, you've been a great host, and I feel a little bit left out because everyone's got Tottenham kits on, but I am wearing Tottenham shorts, I promise. But yeah, it's been a pleasure, Harry and Joey, to be on with you guys, and it's been a great conversation. Big up to the chat.
Thank you, Sam. And yeah, thank you for everyone who came and tuned in again. Please like and subscribe. Follow everyone. If you could possibly also follow me on X, Joesph THFC, doing kind of some other Tottenham things. We also do some different things on Twitter, some live spaces and things like that. So be sure to check out everything we're going to be doing in the future. But again, thank you all for coming on. I hope you have a good evening, and come on, you Spurs.